Well, good Sunday morning, everybody. Same officers, different badges. Laredo trains them, other agencies take them. And this week, city leaders look to answer one question: what will it take to keep them?
And as everyone is aware, Laredo, like most communities, is at a crossroads when it comes to addressing public safety.
Well, that declaration setting the tone for last Tuesday's special city council meeting to address a growing concern improving officer retention in the Laredo Police Department. Inside a city hall chamber filled to capacity, a crowd of officers, police leaders, and community partners called on council to confront a troubling trend. One speaker laying out the stakes and why the need to act is now.
Serve with integrity, compassion, and courage. But behind the badge, there's growing frustration. We're losing officers. We're struggling to recruit. Why? Because we're being outpaced by other departments offering higher pay, better benefits, and clear career paths. Federal agencies are aggressively recruiting the very officers we trained, officers who grew up here, built trust here, and want to stay here if we give them a reason to.
Meanwhile, new numbers from the Laredo Police Department reveal the story behind this year's crime trends. That includes a decrease in almost all crimes and incidents, with the exception of homicides. But Laredo's role as a border town brings its own set of challenges, both historical and present day. Although the FBI reports that crime rates are lower in border cities than the national average, one former Laredo mayor and FBI agent recalls just how quickly those unique challenges can escalate.
One time, a while back, I had to leave town because I was threatened by members of the cartel. And so consequently, it showed me that there was a presence of dangerous drugs and cartel activity in the city of Laredo. It was minimal, but noticeable.
Well, here to discuss all things with the police department is none other than Laredo Police Chief Miguel Rodriguez. He is joined by KGNS political contributor Hector Alanis and KGNS General Manager Luis Villarreal. Good morning, gentlemen. Thank you all for joining us this morning.
Morning.
Yeah, appreciate having you with us. So that was a pretty intense special called meeting over at City Hall. What can you tell us about what was the tone and the feeling in that meeting?
Well, we were seeing, what sparked this meeting is that we were seeing a trend of officers leaving our department, right? So I get those resignations and I read the resignations and the reason why they're leaving. And so sometimes we've gotten those resignations in the past where there's a hardship and they have to leave because either the wife gets promoted or the wife gets moved to another city. And so we understand that part of it. What was different this year is the fact that, yes, in the past we've had some of our officers leave to the U.S. Marshal Service, DEA, FBI, but it's a very low number that was leaving. And so this year what we started to see is that we started seeing officers leaving to the Department of Public Safety. We started seeing officers leave to HSI. And so we started seeing officers leaving to CBP. And so what sparked this is the fact that we needed to see exactly what was causing this. So when we started talking to them, we said, they just literally told us, hey, Chief, I'm getting paid right now here in PD, $67,000. DPS is gonna pay me $83,000 for doing less than what we're doing here, sir. Because right now I'm answering 911 calls, day in and day out. Domestic violence, mental illness. Yeah, shots fired, because we got shot at just recently. With DPS, might be that we get some shots fired, but I work at my own pace. I'm on the highway. I protect the border. And at the end of the day, I'm not answering calls, right? I don't have to be taking care of a mental ill person for 4 hours at the hospital. That's what a municipal police officer does. So for them is less work pretty much, more pay. And so at $83,000 plus the mandatory overtime that they get, they'll be making about $100,000 a year. So what can you tell them, right? It's like, well, you know what? I support you.
Yeah, how do you get them to, like, oh, dude, but this is better.
I support you, right?
Yeah.
I cannot pay you this. You know, this is where we're at right now. We are going to be opening up the contract because we're already in contract negotiations, but I can't promise you anything, right? So that was part one. And part two came in, right? And this is when we started seeing that HSI opened a portal for 48 hours. They open a portal and they say, anybody that's law enforcement, you can put in your resume, and then we're going to fast track you into getting you into our agency. And so what happened with that is that when they opened this portal, HSI Laredo, what they did, they say, hey, you, and you, put in, right?
What is HSI,
It's
Chief?
Homeland Security Investigations.
Got it. Thank
right?
you.
And so here are officers that are very good investigators and very good officers, some of them undercover, right? Those are the ones they're going for, right? So they go and they say, hey, put in. So in those 48 hours, about 10 of our officers, approximately 10 of our officers put in for that portal. 4 of our officers got picked right away.
Wow.
And these are officers that are working right now in task forces that are very important to the department and the city. And these are officers that are doing things that are of utmost critical to the department. And when I say critical, it's undercover work, that it's current investigations still rolling, right? So that sparked a sense of urgency for us to say, hey, we need to fix this. Mm-hmm. And of course, talking about what other incentives are they getting, right? We just saw yesterday $50,000.
We saw, I was just about to ask you that, Chief. We just saw on social media a $50,000 signing bonus for anybody who applies for the job.
Applied.
You apply for the $50,000 signing bonus. So you guys are capped, though. There's a salary cap with the number of police positions on the force. So how do you go back and ask for that much money?
Well, I think the way to go about this is that we're going to have to get to a number that is just going to be comfortable and reasonable for the current officers that we have right now to be able to retain them. That's the most important part of this, because we were talking about recruitment. Mm-hmm. How many officers can you put into the department? Why are you only getting 450 to take the test? Why are you only sending 18 to the academy? Well, because of the 450, only 270 passed, right? Out of the 270, only 87 passed the agility. Out of the 87, only 50 passed the polygraph, and out of the 50, only 40 passed the psychological. So
not imagine that you're also capped, on how many officers or cadets you can train as well, right?
Exactly.
Historically, I've read that the retention rate nationally for, police departments is about 90%, meaning that you lose 10%. You're going to lose them to, officers that are retiring, or like you said, they're going to move, right? But now on top of that, you got a double whammy because you're losing them to Homeland Security,
yes,
ICE, to the state of Texas, and I can understand that too. I mean, how often, of course, it's not as prominent as it used to be in the past, but how often will we see state troopers just parked alongside, the interstate, just not doing anything, waiting
Right.
for something to happen?
Right.
So those are big challenges, but what is your retention rate right now?
Right now, we were still at about 85%. This is at the beginning of the year when we lost 7. We were at 85% retention rate. Right now, we have no visibility because some officers are not going to tell you that they applied somewhere else, right? And they're just holding on.
They're just waiting until to see what happens.
Yeah.
How do we compare, Chief, community-wise, pay scale-wise? I mean, I know interagency is one thing, but municipal, police, how do we compare with other municipalities?
Well, we're not
pay-wise.
Well, being honest, we're not that far away from other communities, right?
Right.
And we compare ourselves with like San Antonio PD, Corpus, those agencies like SAPD has, they're the second largest city in Texas. And so we're not far away from them as far as base salary.
Base pay.
What puts them over is all the incentives that they get, right? And so that's with ASAPD. When we're talking about Corpus has a big problem, right? Corpus is one of the most violent in Texas, right? And so when we're talking about them, they are below us. They have less officers than us, but that's the consequences of doing that, right? That you have a high crime city
with fewer officers,
very low, a very high officer that are going
turnover
up to other agencies, and so that becomes a problem in itself. And then we start seeing the consequences, right? That you have, I have family that lives there, and they tell me all the time, when we come to Laredo, we actually see officers patrolling. When you go to Corpus, rare that you see somebody in patrolling areas, right? And so it's a big difference, you know, when we're talking about ourselves compared to Corpus. Now, you saw a representative from CLEAT, which is a union from the police officers in Texas. He came in and he said on Tuesday that Corpus is opening up their contract because they're seeing the problems that they're seeing, so they have to fix it. But our main problem here in the border is that sometimes we don't compete to our neighboring cities, right? Because that's where they live. What we compete with is our CBP guys, right?
Yeah,
And what's the key to all that? That we're bilingual. Other cities, they pay for bilingual pay. We don't pay bilingual.
No, because it comes with the
automatic.
territory, right?
Right.
It's automatic, but for them, it's gold. Because, hey, here, I get a guy that is trained, that has been trained for the border.
That's right.
Right?
And is bilingual.
Knows the ins and outs of cartels, knows the ins and outs of any transnational organization, and he's bilingual. I can put him anywhere, plug him in anywhere in the country.
That's right.
And I can
Exactly.
use them.
So, Chief, what's your vision? How would you like to fix it? If you had an endless pot of money or whatever you'd like to do,
Hector
what would you
tried to
like
give
it?
him one.
Yeah, we did. We tried to get you funds, man. It just, we just couldn't get it to the finish line. But
Yeah, well, there's a couple of things that we're working on, right? And I think the answer is not only the money part, right? That's going to come. That eventually, you know, we already, just yesterday, the day before yesterday, the union and the city came to some sort of agreement on a 1-year fix, right? And so the union is going to take this back to the membership and see if they can approve it. And we think that it might go through, right? And so,
Well, feel free to share that with us if you'd like.
you know, I do want to pick up on something. Is job security is important.
Yes.
Because I mean, I see some of the officers that are leaving to say, and this is not just here in Laredo. I'm sure it's happening across the country, across the state, where small police departments are losing some of their officers to other agencies. But how long is that gonna?
Let's
last,
come
right?
back to that
How
one
long?
in a
How long?
minute
Yeah.
so that
Perfect.
we can.
Let's do
Yeah,
that.
we're going to take a pause right here. We're going to come back after a quick break. Stay with us. We've got lots more to talk about. Welcome back, everyone. Well, like in many parts across the country, Laredo has seen its fair share of immigration enforcement activity. ICE raids have been a common sight in recent months, targeting construction sites and warehouses across the area. And those operations may be here to stay. With billions of new funding now from the federal budget, ICE is now offering up to, as we just mentioned just a little bit ago, $50,000 in signing bonuses to attract new agents. Well, back here at home, the new push raises questions about how Laredo police are responding and what it could mean for their day-to-day duties. And we're going to pick up the conversation. Hector, you had
Right.
a question that you were asking the Chief.
So yeah, I was asking, we're talking about, the officers that are leaving, that you're losing to other agencies like ICE, Homeland Security, even the state of Texas troopers. Now, how long is that going to last? Because to me, it might be seasonal. We term seasonal. This could be maybe a few years, a couple of years or so, because of what's going on within our country right now. But and we said, and Luis brought this up too. We faced that in the healthcare industry. I was there, for 10 to 12 years, and we saw where a lot of hospitals were having shortages of nurses because of the healthcare agencies
Right.
offering more money,
Right.
and so they were
Traveling nurses.
losing those employees. So, I'm sure you've talked to other, cities about these challenges. Have you talked about these things and these challenges and, what's going to happen when those jobs come back?
yeah, so we have, other chiefs and myself, we have, chats here for what it is of the current environment, right? And so one of the things that we talked about all the time is, when is this going to stop, right? And we saw a little bit of light at the end of the tunnel. But then here comes ICE, right? I'm going to hire 9,800 agents.
50
And
grand.
here comes Border Patrol. I'm going to hire 10,000 agents. It's like, okay, that light just shut down, right? Because we know we're going to keep on losing our officers, but we have to pivot, right? One of the things that our officers look at is, okay, so what is the burnout, right? Right now, what is it that we're doing that we can do different? And so, for us to have some sort of fix, we're going to have to do better for the officer. And and I know this is something that was in the news, right? That about the gym, right? About caring for them, right? Generation Z, it's all about caring for them. It's all about inviting them to the cause, right? Involving them in decision making. And so this generation is very different from my generation, Generation X, right? Me, give me a patrol car, give me a radio, I'm gonna
That's
go
right.
do my
I'm
work,
long gone.
Right? Now is we can't do our work without our internet, right? The system goes down, the sky's falling, right? We can't work. And so we have to pivot to that generation, and also millennials, because millennials, it's about collaboration. It's about, let me help you fix it. Even though you're at an officer rank in an executive branch, let's get together and fix it, which I agree, we can always do that. This is not about one person thinking one way. I want to know what they're thinking, and I want them involved, right? So one of the things that we're going to start doing is, once we launch this online platform, we're going to take away about 48% of the officers' work. Why? Because all we do is report writing. Sometimes the majority of the time of the officer is just taking reports.
Right.
Why are we still sending an officer to take a theft report? There's no suspects. It happened a week ago. I just found out. Why are we still sending an officer to a theft report that's taking him 40 minutes to complete?
Yep.
Right.
It's a waste of time.
Right.
Why are we sending officers to an HEB of a fender bender that's taking them 50?
A lot of
60
that has to
minutes?
do with educating the public too, as to when you call police and when you don't.
Right.
I mean, as simple as just move out of the way, on the road, kind of thing. But anyway,
What if we shift all that to, okay, you know what? I feel for you. Sometimes the public sometimes waits for us 4 hours to go take a report.
Sure.
Because we're not available. So why don't we make it easier and be a win-win? You have this online portal that you can report it, and we take away that part of it from the officer to respond to that call. And so it's a win-win, because you get your report and the officer's still doing the work that is needed for him to do and complete.
Yeah.
Chief,
Yeah.
if I may kind of switch gears a little bit, the recent ICE raids and stuff like that, the involvement of local police in that, obviously it's been criticized in some communities. My take has always been, you're there to protect everybody involved. You're not necessarily there to help enforce
Correct.
any action, correct?
Correct.
Is that's what the marching orders are for
Correct.
the
So,
department?
one of the things that we're very lucky, right? And I feel that the majority of the leadership that is in HSI right now, and ICE and ERO, that leadership grew up with the current leadership of PD. So we have a very good, close friendship with them that we can work together, right? And one of the things that when we sat down and we said to them, you have a bunch of agents already working this, right? We cannot forget the objectives and the planning of Laredo PD, right? Our objectives on a daily basis is to protect the public. You guys don't get calls like we do, right? We have over 450,000 calls a year for calls for service. If you take away even one officer right now, where I'm 70 officers short, it's gonna hurt our department. So you need to help me help you. Call me if there is a criminal involved and you need additional support. Right? Call me if there's somebody that you know is going to be receiving you with whatever weapons.
Sure.
I'll provide you with our SWAT, right? Call me in those times. But in the normal routine,
How often are you all involved in some of this? The 287G program, right? That's an ICE program, where they're asking participation from the local, police departments. How active are you guys in that program, and to what degree?
Well, we haven't engaged in that program because we're not under it. One of the things that I can tell you, Hector, is that we've always done that.
Right.
Who wants a guy that's a criminal here that's being arrested for a DWI?
Agreed.
That's a good point.
Agreed.
That is a good
Exactly.
point.
So we've always called.
Initially, it was about deporting the criminals.
Exactly.
And now it's, what is it, 40 to 60% of the people that are in the detention centers don't even have it.
They don't have
any criminal records. I mean,
Exactly.
So yeah, and I think I appreciate that. From our community, I think being so close to the border, or being right on the border, right? I think we can appreciate the relationship within our own police department. In other areas, we've seen a lot of distrust.
Right.
From the community, right? From people. People are afraid of, reporting crimes because they're afraid that they're going to be deported. And that's been happening for many years, but now it's a lot more critical, right?
Well, yeah, and I can tell you this, the conversation with that one aspect of it, it was that, I did tell HSI leadership and the rest of the leadership in our area that, let me put it to you this way, if people stop trusting the police, we're going to have an individual that's a U.S. citizen engage with somebody in a relationship that is not a non-U.S. citizen. She becomes victimized. She's never going to call us.
That's right.
Whether it's a minor domestic dispute or a sexual assault, she's never going to call us.
Yeah.
So we need to continue with that trust. We need to make sure that we provide the community with that clarity, right? They need clarity.
Yeah.
What are we doing?
Chief, I'm switching gears here, Chief. I want to talk, just because I've got you here and I've got Hector here, I want to talk a little bit about the bond election. You needed a whole lot of money to meet the needs. Hector, you were chairman of the subcommittee. Wanted to ask both of you guys, where do you go from here now that bond didn't pass, a couple of years needs to go by? So where do you go from here on the space that you needed and all of the equipment that you were hoping for?
Well, we went back to the drawing board, right? And and talking in previous conversations, what I've stated before, and we went back with command, and we ourselves said to ourselves, we can restructure, because restructure is just going to get us internal restructure of personnel. We have to reinvent ourselves, and how we're going to do that, let's go back to the drawing board. And I've said it, right? We didn't get a helicopter because we need one. We went to drones, and it didn't cost the city anything because, well, it cost 20% of that investment, but we got that from the state. We got it through state grants. We couldn't fix our 911 center, which you saw, Hector.
Right, yep.
But what did we do? I got the state to give us and provide us funding to move our auto theft division into a rental and a lease space within our city. So we're paying lease through the state to make room to move captains and other personnel from the main station to that area where auto theft was. And what did we do? We expanded the 911 center. So we got money from salary savings, and we got money from a previous bond that we had a little bit of money there to renovate and expand our 911 because that was critical. That's very critical for the city. So what we did, we put a Band-Aid so we can wait another 2-3 years, right? But with that Band-Aid came a lot of good things because what we did, we needed to expand our operations and communication for our officers. And we now are going to have additional channels to engage our officers. So we're going to be displaying that for you guys really soon as our new 911 center, what we did. But that's all through grant money and making sure that we provide that service to the community that is needed.
Chief, for what it's worth, thank you for everything you do, guys. It is greatly appreciated in keeping us safe. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, appreciate it.
Okie doke. Well, on that note, we're going to take a quick break. When we come back, it's the one thing that our panelists cannot stop thinking about. Stay with us. Welcome back, everybody. It's the one thing our panelists cannot stop thinking about. Chief.
Our crime stats. Double-digit decrease year to date. Incredible work by our department, especially our patrol bureau and our investigators. It's just, exciting times for us because what we did and we pivoted and we got it done. And I think this momentum is continuing to grow. So yes, it's awesome. One great thing after this.
Hector.
Awesome, Hector.
So mine's kind of funny. It has to do with South Park. I mean, and all of that had to, was it came up because of the Paramount and CBS multi-billion-dollar deal and how to get around it. And I don't think anybody really thought that these guys from South Park were going to do what they did. And they got $1.5 billion themselves. I mean, that was crazy. So
it's a good show.
In case you don't get a chance and you can't go to the anniversary mass, remember we will be broadcasting live for you the entire mass in a 1-hour pre-show, Mindy. So we'll see you next Saturday.
We are doing this next Saturday. Okay, my one thing, you got to see it. Billy Joel, 2-part series, and So It Goes. Happens to be my favorite Billy Joel song as well. It's a great, great documentary. I highly recommend it. Okie doke. Well, gentlemen, thank you so much for joining us. Appreciate having you with us. Chief, we appreciate everything you do. Hector, thank you once again for being a panelist.
Thank you.
Appreciate it.
Thank you, guys.
That is all the time we have. We'll see you next Sunday for another episode of Beyond the Headlines. Have a fantastic week ahead.